Well, top of the day, everyone out there. It is June 9th. Yes, it is. You are watching the Morning Update Show. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. We're bringing it to you live from the streets of Capitol Hill, the famous Western Barricade. We know lots of live coverage has been happening here, lots of activity in the streets at night. There's a lot of developments also that have been happening here as Capitol Hill is now what we are calling Free Cap Hill. So there are some major developments that we'll be sharing with you guys as we unfold the show. And thank you to all the supporters out there for the King County Equity Now campaign. It is clear that there is some strategy that is being done in the community. And so thank you to all of you who have signed up for that campaign. We're going to be asking for volunteers to come out and actually man these streets here at Capitol Hill so we can get that information spread out to all of these protesters as they continue to flood the streets on Cap Hill. So we're going to be offering those opportunities for folks to just flood these streets with our flyers, get the information out as more and more people come. We know the rain hasn't stopped anybody thus far, so we'll see how the crowd builds up today. And with that, I'll throw it over to our guy, Big O. You've been out here on the streets, barely getting no sleep, man.
No sleep in the streets, man. You know what I'm saying? No rest for the weary. Tell you who else isn't getting any sleep out here is it looks like the protesters, as they've started early today over here at the East Precinct. And I guess we're going to have to retitle it now. Well, there is still a barricade, but the Western Barricade, as we once knew it, no longer exists. Yesterday, while we were reporting right here on the Morning Update Show, we saw a construction company or fencing company put in a fence right here across Pine Street. That was about between 12 and 1 o'clock. And by 3 o'clock, City Hall and city leaders had scrapped that plan. It was out the window, and what we saw was a lot of movement over at the East Precinct. We saw a lot of moving trucks, and we saw officers leaving with bags, and also the building being boarded up. And at that time, that's where we were like, hey, well, it looks like it's getting abandoned, that the precinct is getting abandoned. And I know everybody has a different word, and it's no need to go back and forth over words. The official release from the city was that the precinct footprint was being reduced. And, yeah, I mean, that works, too. The footprint, I would say, is very small, if that's the case. The police did push out. There was almost a situation a little bit before they left between the protesters and the officers, as the protesters, I guess, were anxious, and they moved the barricade there forward. And it was about a 1-hour standoff between the police and the protesters, and finally it ended peacefully. The bicycle officers left the area, and Pine Street was open to the public for the first time in over 1 week. Of course, you can imagine it was a lot of exhilaration at the time, a lot of cheering. A lot of people feel that, that this was a victory, a big victory in more ways than one. And to be able to explain that is that you have protesters who are here protesting George Floyd, you're protesting injustice, socioeconomic issues, and everything else. But you also have to remember that there's people here where this is their neighborhood. They might have been indifferent about George Floyd. They might have been indifferent about police issues or anything else. But it was just the fact that they didn't take kindly to the police putting a barricade in their neighborhood restricting, freedom of access. And so, when you put it in that context, like I said, there's a good number of people like that. These are the same sentiments that we hear from a lot of people in rural areas of our state, where they're saying that they don't want the government to be able to dictate their movement through public property and things like that. So it's kind of crazy. It's a few different sentiments here, yeah. But a pretty amazing day as far as events unfolding. And we're going to get to some video that's out there as well. But the East Precinct is still here. Depending on who you talk to, it's been vandalized or it's either been enhanced by street art. So, you know what I'm saying? We want to give equal time here on both sides of the issues. But either way, the building doesn't quite look like it did before the police left. But the building, it's there, it's sound and everything. I know a big concern for a lot of people was like that the building would be burned and burned down to the ground. And I can tell you, Trayana, that there was a civil defense force. As soon as the police left here last night, there was a civil defense force that was formed by residents here on Capitol Hill. And I'm going to tell you, don't ever underestimate the rainbow flag or anything up here, because I seen so many AK-47s, AR-15s, 9mm, and everything else. I'm talking about it was a whole lot of artillery, so to speak. And so they created a civil defense force here and created barricades, because there was another unfolding drama going on here yesterday. Is that there was word that the Pride Boys were the Proud Boys.
Yeah. Not the Pride Boys.
Not the Pride Boys. Now I'm becoming a target when he calls the Pride Boys. That the Proud Boys were heading up here to Cal Anderson Park, which is right behind us right there, 30 deep and ready to get it in up here. But I'll be honest with you. I don't care if you're the Proud Boys or anybody else. If you would have seen the artillery that these guys had over here, it wasn't a wise decision to come into this stronghold where people have already been on the streets and on edge for 11 days with whatever agenda, because force was ready to meet force here.
Right. We saw him out there. I mean, I was out here not too long, not too late, but I was able to see some of that activity myself. Oh, and you are so right. At the end of the day, you got to give it up to those guys who were defending their neighborhood, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's real interesting because, let's see how it turns out now, where, who on the advocacy of guns, gun right, freedom of movement and everything else that's not traditionally on the same side of issues of people here in Capitol Hill, or not traditionally on the same side of issues of protesters and everything else. I'm wondering if some of the same guys that were down there in Olympia and everything else that we've seen here would be supportive of guys here on Capitol Hill.
Right.
You just never know. Sometimes protests make odd bedfellows.
Right. Eddie, that is so true. I mean, we talked about how, there was a big uprising when the Black Panthers walked with their guns. You know what I mean? And so maybe this could actually bring folks together instead of repelling them. You never know.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is, if you can imagine, the city of Seattle doesn't look too kindly on the streets being occupied and barricaded over here. We saw Fire Chief Scoggins checking out everything earlier. They didn't get an opportunity to spray the fire retardant foam onto these buildings. Maybe the higher power knew that and brought the fire retardant down from the sky. But the Chief Scoggins was around, and he's been walking the perimeter. Word is that Chief Best is also around here walking the perimeter. We'll see. And if Chief Best is around here, if we see her, we'll see if we can pull her down here for an interview and kind of talk to her. Because, on the flip side of it is, although Capitol Hill is free of movement now and the police are no longer barricading here, it's still not total freedom of movement, because the streets are blocked and there's armed citizens manning the barricades. So like I said last night, man, this is a story. This story is just like peeling an onion.
Yeah.
It goes a layer and layer, and you're like, man, it brings more tears.
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is that, each one of these layers is showing different sets of characteristics. And that's some of the things that you got to love, is that the resilience of the people is strong and is real. And, also the connectivity of the people is real. One of the things that I love is that she's out here just asking if folks want breakfast. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you're seeing. It is support like no other with these protesters. And honestly, it is something that I believe the nation as a whole can take, notice of, honestly, because we've all needed more connectivity. And unfortunately, we don't always have that. So this has really brought the nation together. That's one of the things I can say.
I think you're a protester down deep. Huh?
I love the movement. I love the resilience, man. We got to stand up for what we believe in, and that's what all these guys are doing out here. You know what I mean? That's why I'm out here with them, when I can be. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Well,
I love it.
Well, it's good. So I think you bring some balance here then, because I'm definitely not a protester.
Right.
Although I think it's important to be able to hear all the sides of people who are out here protesting and hear their stories and everything else. And so, I guess you have an advocate here in Trae. But one thing I can say is no matter what, I've been out here in the mix.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
I don't know if folks understand that you're not a protester as much as you've been out here, man.
Man, I mean, well, that's also why, you know what I'm saying, it's important. Hey, what's up, Raz? How are you? It's always good to be able to reinforce that, you know what I'm saying? This isn't necessarily a traditional form of journalism, as they say out there, where the citizen journalism.
Right.
Where I think you see a lot of our citizenship and humanity come into play. Daryl, we're getting ready to go into these video clips here. If you give me a second. So first clip here. This is a fairly short. 1 second here. This is a fairly short clip. You ready, Daryl? So this is free cap. Basically, last night after the police pulled out, and I got to remind everybody that Capitol Hill is Seattle's arts district. And, I mean, it's almost like these guys carry around art supplies like the police carry around mace. It doesn't take a second for them to just pull out and start creating something. First here, this is just a short clip of a sign now that says, "Welcome to free Capitol Hill." I tweeted out a picture of that last night, and I said, "There's signs of change on Capitol Hill."
Wow.
And so it's like, welcome to. I mean, that's kind of just the sentiment, though, at least of the protesters that were here, is that now this is a free, free as in free to move around, and maybe free in some other ways.
Right. Well, I think the police force being out here the way that they were with the National Guard, the state police, just having that reinforcement, it really made people that was the uneasy feel that people were getting. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it was showcasing. It felt like brute force, right? And so to no longer have that presence here, to no longer have that energy present, I think that really does specify that freedom that folks are talking about.
Right. And so now last night, you know what I'm saying, things were changing rapidly over here. And one of the things that concerned me is that, there was already an issue with people having medical emergencies. 2 nights ago, it was a flashbang. Someone got hit with that and some other things going on. But even outside of protests, there's areas, there's several city blocks here that are barricaded, that are actually barricaded here. And, we were concerned, at least I know I was, about Medic One's response. And not necessarily for protesters. Someone has a heart attack. Someone has an asthma attack. Someone has a slip and fall, or, getting out their bathtub or whatever. How can these people get medical support? And so Chief Scoggins actually was fortunate enough to be able to talk to him twice yesterday, but when we were on air and after the zone cleared out, we definitely were trying to reach him. And so many people, there was all kinds of city council people and everything, because we're like, we need the chief to call. Lisa Herbold sent me a message, talk to the chief. The chief's calling in, and we got the chief on the line, and we asked him about the fire retardant on this building, but most importantly, we asked him about how the Seattle Fire Department and Medic One intends to respond to medical emergencies here in the blockaded zone. Thing is, Chief, and we do you said we have a fire station which literally is 2 blocks up, everything else. But if you're following the stream now, you see that the streets are barricaded, and I mean it's an actual physical barricaded with cars and everything else. If there's a Medic One emergency in here, not even necessarily related to this protest. I mean, I was saying on the stream, people have heart attacks, people have asthma attacks. People who have nothing to do with this protest are just sitting at home. What advice or instruction are you giving anybody who might suffer a medical emergency within this barricaded area?
Well, my advice is to work hard to get to the edges and let us know what edge you're going to be on. And so if they're near 13 line, get to the edge. If they're near 12th and Pike or 11th and Pike, get to the edge so you can meet you. Because clearly, as you mentioned, I'm watching just like you are. all of these access points have been blocked with vehicles and other things. So it's going to be challenging for us to get any units in there, and I don't know how safe it is because I saw on some of the screens that many members are open carrying weapons in there. That's not a place we want to put our firefighters.
Right. And so basically then, if someone is suffering a medical emergency and they need Medic 1 to respond, to them, then I think that maybe one of the best things, what we're saying is understand the streets that are here and understand the streets that are barricaded and be able to give some instruction to dispatch and that what I hear you saying is Medic 1 doesn't have a problem going to the edge of the barricade.
No, our goal would be to get the patient in a safe place. And if you can help with that would be great. Clearly, we don't want those streets blocked because there's access points throughout the entire neighborhood. And so it doesn't just throw up responses for the people inside the state. It throws up responses for people all around Capitol Hill. That's the challenge we're facing right now. If these barricades just throw up our response, remember, response is that distance line, we can't get there really quick. That's a problem.
All right, Chief. Hey, look, man, I appreciate you calling. We're gonna let you go for now, man. And if you have any information that comes across through the night that you want us to be able to get out, you know what I'm saying? I mean, one thing is firefighters are always in that unique position where like everybody loves the firefighters. You know what I'm saying? And so, the line is always open over here. We can get any information. Really, it's always open to any city government because right now, I think everybody just wants people to be safe. And so feel free, to reach out this way if there's any messaging or any message to pass along to the medics that are on the ground inside the barricade. Bobby Steels is here. He works with the medics a lot. He can go talk to them as well as far as coordination if required.
Okay, thank you. And reach out if you need anything.
All right, Chief. Have a good evening. All right, so you saw right there, Chief Scoggins was on the job last night. He got right back to us. We got him on air, and he also sent us his information in case there was any other questions or information to be able to get out. And we also told Fire Chief Scoggins that if there was any information from the fire department side that he could definitely reach out to us over here at Converge, and we would get that information out to the public to the best of our ability.
That's important because at the end of the day, there's constant updates happening here. And so it's good that, Converge was on the scene. You were down there to get that word, from the fire chief. I mean, it's good to know that there are some measures being done and being taken by department heads like himself. So, again, I think that brings some solace to the people down here. You know what I'm saying? That at least, there's some people coming down to bring some solace.
Right. So somebody had a good question there. It was like, why should it be such a huge problem to let an ambulance through? So I'll see if we have it on this video. But at night, there's 3 levels of barricades on the streets. And like I said last night, the streets were heavily barricaded and armed to protect against this threat from the Proud Boys. So you had a barricade of cars, then you had metal barricades, then you had plastic barricades and everything else. Part of the issue is could people move the cars out? And so one of the things that Chief Scoggins was also trying to relay is telling the people who are barricading the street with their cars to make sure that they leave the keys in the cars or that they stay with the cars. But it's not just a checkpoint. These are legitimate barricades that are put up on the streets around here. So.
Yeah, with the different layers, that's what makes it possible. Because, again, a lot of these barricades are being manned. So even for me, last night, my car was on Pine, literally, and there was my car was literally barricaded in. But folks were right there like, hey, what do you need? You need us to move it? So, there was people there that allowed me to get my car out of here last night. Again, that's one of the things that we're seeing here with the resilience and the way that they've spread out the support.
Right. And so, Daryl, you got your iPhone cam? So we're going to take a shot here just kind of looking up the block. If you could leave my microphone open, Daryl. So this is now facing east on Pine. we've set up a little small camera over here. See, there's some activity up there at the top of the block. That's where we saw Chief Scoggins not too long ago, Fire Chief Scoggins, who was walking around and trying to, talk to people about fire safety and fire hazards that are out here. And so that's what it's looking like right now. I know that Bobby Steels has the hookup on all of these cameras that are in the neighborhood, so we'll see if somebody is going to have a shot of the precinct that we can keep on our stream. So last night, once everybody rallied there at the East Precinct, it got pretty interesting. There was a lot of crowdsourcing for ideas and demands because, that's the thing. And that's something that, here at Converge that and we've been saying is like, okay, well, what are your demands? And every day there's kind of been a different leader. And that means that every day the demands have kind of changed. Some people said they just want a meeting with the mayor. Some people said they want every black person to get $1 billion. Some people said that, if you could give out free hugs. I mean, it's great. Some other people said, well, our demand is we just want to burn the whole city to the ground and bring in Armageddon. That was a demand, too. It's a bit wild out here. However, last night, once the barricade cleared, the crowd joined in over there in front of the East Precinct. They pulled out a PA system, and they started crowdsourcing demands of what they want to demand of the city. And if you guys watched the stream last night, there was a young man had about 50 different demands. He said there was some overlap, and that they were filtering those down. So, I mean, it was interesting to kind of see in itself because a lot of these guys who were there last night were long-term protesters. We saw a few newbies out there, but a lot of them were long-term protesters. And, I mean, as somebody who's been out here for 10, 11, 12 days, gassed, shot with the rubber bullets and everything else, they feel that they want to have a word in it as well. However, during the night, we saw council member Kashama Sawant. She showed up, and you remember Sawant, 2 nights ago, it got funky when Sawant got to the front of the crowd there at the protest, and she was like, no justice, no peace. And she said something about the police, no crooked police, or something like that. No racist police, or something like that. And I mean, I'm not saying that was the impetus, but all I know is like 2-3 minutes later, all hell broke loose. And that's how it went down 2 nights ago. And so I think that Kashama Sawant came back last night, kind of feeling like she wanted to take a victory lap with the protesters. If you could play that clip for us, Daryl. The barricade was moved today. Pine Street is now open. Do you consider that a victory for the people here, for your party, your movement, your message?
After a week of unbelievable viciousness and violence by the police force and the National Guard against peaceful protesters and mostly young people, unarmed people, for that movement to have taken this street and forced the police to back down, that is absolutely a victory. There is no question about it.
So you see, that's Council Member Kashama Sawant. And, I mean, they say that to the victor goes the spoils, and that's what I was talking about last night. Council Member Sawant has come in, and she's rallied a lot of these people. Her message resonates with a lot of people. But also, believe it or not, she was to the right of a lot of issues because there was quite a few people who were like, defund the police by 50%. We want 100%. You're being too soft. Even Sawant was caught off guard. She was like, whoa.
Well, I think that a lot of the demands that, are coming from Shama Sawant's office, coming from the community, are really about, wins that we know we can get. I think a lot of people have framed some of their demands into, let's really do this in a way that provides sustainable change. I think a lot of the protesters out here are just like ready to really throw away the system. So you see a large range of, of where people are coming in their approach.
I'll say, though, but when it got to the crowdsourcing and the actual people of whatever, those are the people who want to actually fix the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the people, and let me be honest with you, there was quite a few people yesterday. There was quite a few people who we call the night shifters, the people who want to antagonize the police and everything. They took the day off. They came back yesterday, and we could see their lips poked out because there was no more barricaded police.
Right.
Oh, they were so disappointed. You should have seen the disappointment because they knew they were going to come here for another day and try to push the line or try to antagonize. And when they saw that there was no barricade and now it's free Capitol Hill, oh, man, you can see the disappointment in these guys' faces.
Man, I'm not trying to laugh, but the thing that's so funny to me is literally I think a lot of people were coming down here to just get their aggression out. You know, they're upset with the police. They may have had their own personal stories, and then the George Floyd and all these other killings just tipped them over the edge. So they were just ready to come down here, point at the cops and yell and curse at the cops.
The other thing that you have to remember, too, is that there's literally thousands of people that live inside of a barricaded area.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been saying from day one here, is that the East Precinct has a specific issue that people were mad at the East Precinct. And so, you know, there's George Floyd, all these other things that are going on, but people didn't want to live. If this is your neighborhood, imagine if the CD was blockaded.
Right.
And you, in order to go from Union to Jackson, you had to go like all the way down to 12 or something like that. You'd be like, man, get this out of here.
Right.
And so there's a lot of people who live in the neighborhood. And so the blockade made people mad in the neighborhood, but the tear gas and everything else. So that's what I was saying. There's a lot of, and this protest here was sustained by people from the neighborhood who were really kind of mad about how things got very funky and very gassy and everything else. Our security guy from 2 nights ago, he took 5 rubber bullets standing in front of me. You know what I'm saying? He got shot with 5 rubber bullets. This was a security guy who was standing in front of me while I was filming. 5 rubber bullets. He lives in the neighborhood. How can his family be happy with, you know what I'm saying, and things like that. So Sawant, she's having a meeting today at 6 p.m., and I think that we're gonna stream that for you guys, for the community, because I think it's important. Like I said, she's the leader who's out in front on this thing. She said that her demands come from her meetings with community members, with the black community, with people of color, and things like that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I tell people all the time, I tell the council member this, and we always have great interviews. It's like, I don't necessarily agree with Kshama Sawant's ideology, but she does have a cold ground game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we always have a great conversation, you know what I'm saying, as well. But Councilmember Sawant at 6 o'clock over right behind us there at Cal Anderson Park, she's going to be holding a community meeting with community members here, and she's going to be talking about her agenda and everything else. And we're going to stream that for you here. We're trying to coordinate that right now. What the council member did say last night, and some big points, was, the defund the police at 50%. So no need to kind of replay that. But she said that she's introducing 2 bills to the city council. And we'll talk about it here in this clip, but one of the bills is the ban of chemical weapons and pepper spray and everything else. I know you'll be happy with that, right, Bobby Steels?
Yeah.
And the second is to make the chokeholds illegal here in the city of Seattle. If you could play that clip for me, Daryl.
Now is that there is an uprising of young people, and politicians are now being forced to answer for it because they have their own political careers on the line. That is why right now what we have is most immediate, even before defund, is today I introduced 2 bills. One to ban all use and purchase of chemical weapons and all so-called crowd control devices. So no mace, no pepper spray, no tear gas. We were here last night, we were tear gassed pretty brutally. No chemical weapons, no weapons of crowd control. I'm bringing another bill forward to ban the use of chokeholds. Both these legislations are going to come for a vote on Monday. So you want to hold politicians accountable, demand that every council member votes yes on those 2 bills without watering them down, without telling us that, we need recommendations to remove chemical weapons. I heard the mayor last night saying we need to study chemical weapons. You know what my response to her was? Or why don't you go and Google the Geneva Convention and you'll find out why chemical weapons are not allowed. Or better yet, stand with us on the front lines and get gas and you'll find out why.
You saw that's Council Member Gurmai. Not Gurmai. I just got a text from Gurmai Zalai. We were back here laughing about it. Anyways, that was Seattle City Council Member Kshama Sawant talking about the introduction of two bills. One banning the chemicals and some of everything else that goes along with crowd control currently here in the city of Seattle, and the second being the chokehold.
Yeah.
Now I could see I don't really see anybody maybe necessarily voting against the chokehold, especially what we've been seeing here lately. But I don't know how easily a ban on all the chemical and pepper spray and everything else will go through City Hall. What do you think?
Well, I think that there was a growing concern down here. Oh, honestly, I mean, the protesters clearly had an issue. I mean, even talking to folks down here the last couple, like on yesterday, and they were saying, look, the chemical agents that were being sprayed around here, are literally what Aaron Brockovich's case was about, right? And all these cancer and, multiplying cancerous cells in your body and deforming the cells in your body. So, yeah, there's a lot of folks that are concerned with, how these chemicals are going to affect them in the long term. And I think that's important. I'm glad that she's brought out two bills that are really addressing a lot of the concern of this growing crowd.
I think you're a Sawant fan, huh?
You say that every time. I mean, I think
this woman can do no wrong with you.
Well, I just think she stands for the points of the people. And I'm not in her district, so I can't vote for her. But I do think that she has a good platform. You know what I mean? And again, you've been calling for leaders. She's coming out here.
Well,
that's
what I'm saying. We've in the last few days before the barricade came down, you heard SPD on the PA system saying, man, if there's any community leaders out here, if there's anybody that can help us keep this crowd peaceful, is there anybody that can whatever, And so, I mean, she stepped out and she emerged. If you queue up a break here, Daryl, we're going to take a short break right now. We're going to bring you some more footage from last night here at the Western Barricade that is no more, in a place that they now call Free Capitol Hill.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Jeez, dirty hands. Wow,
hands on the scene, running down the street, getting it. He got it back to his post at 1.
Like, man. We gotta get some earpieces or something, man. I don't know how that technology works where we can all hear everything. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. As usual, I'm joined by the very amazing, stupendous, just super bomb, as they say on the streets.
We do it together.
Trae Holiday in the building. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. It's always great to be here, oh.
Yeah, so we're broadcasting live from, it's still a barricade, so I'll say I guess it still is the Western Barricade, but in a place that's now called Free Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
This is like one of these movies. This has been, it's crazy because it's real life, but I wish that there was documentary cameras back here the whole time. Maybe somebody had pieced all this stuff together, because what we've witnessed here is just, It's wild, man. Big shout out to what I was saying earlier is King County Council Member Gurmai Zahalai. He'd actually texted us over the break. He said make sure and go get another COVID test. I've already got 2. I'm going to go back again. You know, if you saw Gurmai, I was kind of scared to take the COVID test when Gurmai put out that video and they stuck the swab all the way into his brain.
Oh,
you see
gosh.
that? It was like it was tickling the top of his skull.
It made my innards tingle.
Yeah, and I just want to let everybody know it's very rare out here without a mask.
Yeah.
You know, when we do this show, we don't have a mask on, but the whole time out here. But I think what Gurmai said as well is he was like, man, you've been out here going so long and bad sleep and bad food and everything else that my immune system might be lower. So I'm going to go ahead, since I done said it on air, Council Member Zahalai, I'm going to go ahead and go over there today, and we'll get some more COVID tests for the whole crew. Because if I don't, you know, my mama watching, and my mama going to be like, you know that old Gurmai told you go get that test.
You know she
Why didn't you go get that test, boy?
Look, moms be concerned about your well-being, man. You got to be good out here in these streets, and I think that goes out to all these protesters. And although you're not a protester, your schedule is like theirs, so please, protesters, go get tested. You guys have been in close proximity with people. You know, not too much social distancing. I do see the masks, but not everybody has gloves on. So please, all of you who've been out here struggling and fighting for freedom, go get tested.
All right, Daryl, are you able to put the iPhone camera up?
All right.
All right, so, yeah. And so we want to be able to get some of that shot over there. That's Chief Best. I don't know if you're able to get it or not. Okay, so that's Chief Best up there right now. It looks like that she's holding a press briefing with the media. It's a very big amount of media that's up there. Go ahead, zoom in, hands. Good job, bro. Appreciate it. So Chief Best is right up there at the top of the hill. Fire Chief Scoggins is still up there as well. We'll see what time the chief gets done, and if so, we'll pull the chief down here and have a conversation with her as well. So one thing that I'm gonna tell you that has kind of stuck out to me here is, you know, this isn't called Seattle's Arts District by mistake. And the number of artists, now we know that we have the street art, you know what I'm saying, crowd going on here. But just art all around. And something I can't wait till till this is all over with, whenever it is, and things calm down. But because I think that one great story in all of this is the martial law band. And let me tell you, it was 2 nights ago, Bobby Stills will tell you, man, it was the craziest scene that you'd ever seen, right? The standoff was right here between the police and the National Guard, the protesters right here. It popped off, as usual, flashbangs everywhere. It's like it's going down, and we're driven right down there into the street on 11th and Pine, right? And so now the National Guard and the police are facing south on 11th. Just on the end of the block is the martial law band, and flashbangs are going. So now the police are throwing the flashbangs onto 11th, right? And martial law keeps playing. We were standing there on 11th when our security guy got hit with 5 rubber bullets.
Yeah.
Martial law kept playing through the whole thing. The band kept playing. And what I'm telling you is it's so crazy of a scene here. I'm going to have to pull out that footage from 2 nights ago. Is that on one block is literally it's SPD. They got this thing. They got an armored personnel carrier there. And like I said, they're just hitting everybody with the rubber bullets. There's somebody up there on the roof and everything. There's smoke. There's flashbangs. And at the end of the block, the martial law band just kept playing. I mean, it was crazy.
Hey, you know what? One of the things that I saw somebody say, I think it was on Facebook, was, you know, martial law band out here amidst all the chaos. It felt like the Titanic. That's what people were saying. Like, literally, it felt like the Titanic, man. You know, because they refuse to stop playing. They're like, look, I don't care. Flash bombs, rubber bullets, gas, whatever. They're like, man, we're out here, man. We're jamming. You know what I mean? So I get to the Titanic, man.
But yeah, I mean, and martial law said that he was like, look, man, we wasn't gonna move. He said, man, if the people weren't going to move, we weren't going to move. Also, like what we saw 2 nights ago was the first time, to be honest with you, that the people kind of fought back in their sense. Usually what happens is the police push everybody out and, you know, they might come back and then they'll make a line, hands up, don't shoot or whatever. 2 nights ago, the police pushed the protesters out. The protesters started building barricades and threw everything they had at the police. I mean, it's just crazy. It's on video. There's just not enough hours in the day right now for me to be able to pull everything out and edit it and everything else. I think we got some help on the way, hopefully for that, because we got some amazing footage. But anyways, we caught up with martial law last night, and he talks about that night before that I just explained to you, to where the police and the National Guard are right here on the north end of 11th, and he and a band played on the south end of 11th.
I don't want to say it's a victory because now it just intensifies and shifts our focus to a different way. We're excited to continue what we did here, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in to the revolution. I think we did something special here. I really do believe that. And last time you see me, I trusted we might need to release that, Omari, after last week. Or after last night.
Well, alive is alive, but I didn't put nothing.
I know it's in the live. I was like, dang, your boy was passionate, but I think after last night, people seen us stand up and hold our ground. We had people sitting here, and they were committed to not leaving, and that was a special moment because I knew that everyone around me was willing to, if necessary, die or take a bullet like Dick Gregory did for the cause. So, yeah, it's not just us that's committed. There's a whole group of people that really truly believe, and that gave me hope, man. So I'm happy as can be, brother.
It's martial law right there, and it's like Marshall, he said it in kind of a few streams, and it's crazy. But he said, and this is why for citizen journalists that are out there and people that are covering things, but he said that like the thing that got him out here and got the martial law band playing every single night out here was that he said that he saw our stream. And he said he saw our stream, and he was like, man, I can't be at home. Maybe playing music will bring some love and some peace and some understanding. And, I mean, that's kind of powerful and impactful for somebody like me, because you just never know. I mean, we're just streaming.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And telling people what we see. And, I mean, so for all you other streamers out there, and I mean, some big ones that are out here. You know, Future Crystals is out here. Our guy Joey, he's big time now. He didn't even have a Twitter like a week ago. I'm like, Joey, man, you know, put something on Twitter, and he got some video, and he got 1 million views, and now he's all big and everything else. But it's like, you know, let the camera. And the best thing about streaming is it's unedited.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that is there. I want to take a short break right now. And, I mean, Chief Best people, they just sent us a text message. I think she's going to be wrapping up her briefing that's going on the top of the hill here for in a minute. And we'll come back. But there's the last clip that I want to play for last night. I want to be able to set it up right. You're watching the Morning Update Show right here on the Converge Media Network.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
All right. And actually, we've been updated here. Chief Best isn't giving a press conference up there. She's actually talking to community members, and we see that more and more community members are actually coming out to have a discussion with Chief Best. So, I mean, in that case, I just sent them a message saying that we could just extend our show. Our show is usually only 1 hour, and we're coming up on the top of the hour fairly rapidly here. But I think that this is a dialogue that we've been talking about. You know what I'm saying?
So we
is seeing the chief, the police talk to the community. Hey, Bobby Steels, you think you can get some video of that? Okay, so we're gonna send Bobby up there, so we have some video later on that we'll be able to broadcast to you of Chief Best speaking with the community. Once we found out, before I thought she was having a press briefing, and so I'm talking to the people there downtown on the phone. I'm like, well, we're getting ready to get off air, and they just told us that she's speaking with the community. So we want to be able to accommodate the chief, and if need to, if we go off air at the top of the hour, we'll come back on live when we have Chief Best. But we definitely don't want to rush her in this moment where she's over there speaking with community members and things like that. So last night, one of the things that also was kind of interesting to me, and I think it caught a feeling of a lot of our viewers on the stream as well, is there is the candlelight vigil. The candlelight vigil, and a good number of people were people who were in the community here and these artists and things. They were very unhappy on 2 nights ago, but when the police action came down the street, because the candlelight vigil is there. Every time we take a picture or post something with that candlelight vigil, you just get lots of hearts and lots of likes and everything else. And so as the night carried on, and we did one last sweep of the area with the camera before we got out of here, I came again across the candlelight vigil, and I just wanted to share the thoughts that I had then with you. Candlelight vigil this year. And I mean, when you see the candlelight vigil on the vigil wall here, it kind of roots you back to the other side of the protesting, and the remembrance of people. But like I said, it kind of grounds things here. It's a lot of protesters that have come out that have had absolutely nothing that wanted to do anything of being violent or anything of political demands or anything else. It's just people who saw that the murder of George Floyd was a crime against humanity. And the one thing that it was unfortunate that occurred, but sometimes we as a nation have to be shocked back into our humanity, and we have to remember that humanity is within us, and irregardless of our color, our creed, orientation, and all those things, And the murder of George Floyd was just, it was just like I said, not a crime. Yes, it was a crime against a black man, but it was a crime against humanity. And over the last 11 days, there's been thousands of people who have come out here just because this was the way for them to speak out or be heard about the crime against humanity that they saw, and to be able to voice their hopefulness that, we'll come to a day in America, hopefully sooner than later, where we don't witness those things. So, I know I've been talking to you all day about who's in, who's out, who's on the mic, police move back, and all that stuff. But, it's important here to take a moment, like I said, and remember that for a lot of people, for thousands and thousands of people who visited the Western Barricade, that really this is actually what it's been about, So. Yeah, and the thing is, Triana, is we can't forget when we talk about the protests here at the Western Barricade in Capitol Hill, that literally and Bobby says I keep reducing the days, over the 733 days of the protest, over the 14 days, of the protest, there's so many people. It wasn't about shouting at the police. It wasn't about what's the agenda or whatever. it's a lot of people out there whose humanity was offended.
Yeah.
Who it was a little in some cases a big piece of people's humanity that was wounded. And when you see the candlelight vigil there, you're reminded that some people, you know what I'm saying, just came here not to be caught up in these politics and everything else, but to be around other people who very well felt the same. Because what we saw, like I said, it was crime against George Floyd, a crime against a black man, but it was a crime against humanity. And I think that what we see in the candlelight vigil is a reminder of our humanity and who we're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think that same sentiment is so true when you speak to the people down here. I think you're so right that, media conglomerates can only pick up certain things, but being actually down here and talking to people, being on these streets and actually hearing from people why they're here, what brought them here, what is it that they want to see. And so many people are just like, man, I'm tired of people getting murdered, man. It's not right. It's not human. It's inhumane. There's no equality there. So many people. Oh, you are right. That is the sentiment for so many, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was real. And then last night on my Twitter, which is crazy because when it started to rain, believe it or not, the martial law band kept playing through the rain. They're like, hey, man, if we could play through civil insurrection, National Guard, police, rubber bullets, flashbangs, tear gas, pepper bombs, and everything else, they weren't going to stop. But as the rain began to fall here on Capitol Hill last night and the martial law band, played on, you found that people, because the rain was kind of putting out some candles, they were relighting candles, and they were just kind of kneeling there and actually saying prayers, for George Floyd and a lot of other people and victims that are up there. And yeah, I mean, for me, I've seen a lot of powerful moments, since covering this. I don't even know what we call it.
Right.
But I guess this protest or whatever, I've seen a lot of powerful moments. That was really kind of a powerful moment last night.
Yeah, and you know what? Even just being out here for myself, to be honest, I mean, even the protests that took place this weekend, in the black community, organized by black organizers, bringing folks out, just everybody that I've spoken to at all of these protests, it really is a growing sentiment about care and concern for their fellow humans, fellow neighbors, fellow community members, brothers and sisters out here. And I mean, that is the beautiful thing to me that I've been witnessing. I was explaining that to my son, on Friday, 23rd in Jackson. I had my 14-year-old with me, and it was just beautiful to hear him say, wow, Mom, I didn't know that this many people cared. I didn't realize that our lives, were now affecting so many other people. And it was just great to hear that from a young person, because listening to them, you get that sentiment that they're now waking up to the fact that, yeah, it's going to take all of us. We're going to have to do something in order to create change.
Right. And I think people should remember as well, and it's easy to forget, that mankind, when you take all of mankind, when you take humanity in totality, there's way more good people in the world than bad. You can talk to the people at Google today, and they'll tell you people search the word love far more than they ever search the word hate.
Right.
And unfortunately, it takes something like George Floyd for that humanity within us, that had been wounded by his murder, for people to show that. A lot of people didn't realize that, like you said about your son, that other people have always been caring.
Right.
But
right.
it took this incident here with George Floyd for these people who've always been caring to actually come to the surface and make themselves visible. And for some people who've been indifferent to realize that it's like, man, my humanity is hurt now by what I've seen. How can I make myself aware? How can I build awareness?
Yeah, and I also think it's making a lot of people check their internal hate, and check. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you.
We got to give love. You know, when people are out here actually appreciating the work
Yeah,
that we're
we
doing,
get
it
we
says
get
a
lot
lot.
of
You know what I
thank
mean?
yous out
And
here.
I will say that we started all of this at Black Dot Underground, right? And didn't nobody know where we was. We had our community members. Shout out to all of our community members out there.
We
You know what I mean?
got
And
to
now-
keep it real.
Yeah.
When we had our first planning meeting
Yeah.
about this, I mean, I guess it wasn't much of a meeting, but we just decided to do it, and I was like, I can guarantee everybody that we're going to have at least 2 viewers.
Right.
I said I know at least my mom and my dad will be watching, and that's all I can guarantee
Right.
you guys is that my mom and dad will watch, so we might have 2 viewers. And you guys popped
And
it
then,
off.
yeah, I'll say,
Yeah.
hey, Darnell Hibler, you were our third. We know,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
know
Dar-
you was our third
Darnell might
one.
have
You
been
know,
number
and that's
3.
one of the things that I love.
Yeah.
Is that it's really this protest has allowed people to see there's a lot of movements happening that they didn't know were happening. Right? There's a lot of
Right.
things going on, and
And-
now people are wanting to get educated. That's what I love.
Well, it's also let a lot of people know that there's a lot of capable people like yourself who are out here in the community. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, sometimes it takes things like this for people to see what's going on.
Right.
They're the Capitol Hill. I mean, the level of innovation of the people who live up here is like, it's crazy. But so many people wouldn't even know that we existed. It's the same level of work ethic, the same level of professionalism been given my whole career. But, you know what I'm saying, covering this, people are like, wow, look, you know what I'm saying? They find about you, they find out about me, they find out about people like Bobby Stills and Eric Calligraphy and Cam and Dirty Hands and DQ and everything else.
Right.
You know what I'm
and
saying?
what I love too is that, you know, a lot of folks are out there trying to figure out how to tell the stories of people. They want to tell the stories. I think I'm a filmmaker and a storyteller and a documentarian. And for me,
Damn, all that?
you know that. You already know.
You go, girl.
But
Is that hashtag Black Girl Magic?
you already know. I mean, I had literally had a program called Black Girl Magic in Federal Way. Shout out to my
Okay.
Lakota students.
Wow.
But I will say this, that, you know, I know from my own lens and my own personality and perspective that when you feel that the stories have been dominated by, you know, white patriarchy or, you know, white privilege or supremacy, all of those things, you start to wonder, hey, there's somebody like me who wants to see the perspective I have and how I would tell that story in the, you know, differently. And I think that that's what we're seeing so much is this beautiful, you know, birth of all of these storytellers who, you know, some folks
They're
are
out
just like,
here.
look, I had a camera. I just thought I'd put it up. I just wanted to share what was going on. And that's something that I really appreciate as a filmmaker. I think I love that. I love seeing the explosion of people being like, man, I'm going to get out here and I'm going to help tell the story as well. It takes a lot of us sometimes to get it right.
Damn, Trae, I didn't know you was active like that, ma.
Hey, you know, we got to be out here, man.
We out here doing it all. Hey, we're going to take a short break right now, and when we come back, we're going to talk about, you know, what's up for grabs as far as in the political arena here. You know, the protests, I've been telling you guys for Bobby still says 14 days now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys for 14 days that when this ends, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like musical chairs. Let's going to see who's going to be sitting in the chair, because that's the chair that's going to be at the table with the city, the county, and the state. And, you know, by the looks of things here at the moment, Kashama Sawant appears to be sitting in the chair when the music stopped. We'll see how that goes.
Right.
Take a short break right now. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind every day, I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show right here live from the Western Barricade. Has a new look today, but it's still barricaded. Just want to be able to recap the events. Like I said, yesterday was a very big day up here on Capitol Hill. It started out with the Seattle Police Department early in the morning. They were going to put a fence line right across here where you see the small barricaded area. They actually started drilling into the wall and into the streets. And a few hours later, it appeared to be a change of heart at City Hall or in police headquarters. And the Seattle Police Department, a few hours after that, began moving out, at least temporarily. That's what we think of the East Precinct. There was a lot of cars, moving trucks, things like that. We saw a lot of officers moving with bags. And then, of course, we saw the windows get boarded up, chain link fence all around, and the lights turned off. Now, I know that they said that it's still being staffed. I don't have any reason to think that it's not, but I mean, I don't know what kind of a safe position any staff member who might be in there right now would actually be in. There is no police in the barricaded area. Basically, all the streets that were at one time barricaded by the Seattle police, the SPD barricades were removed, and they've been kind of replaced by, I guess you would say, the people's barricades, using all kinds of things that they can find that's around here. In some cases, you just find wood and cones. In other cases, those are cement blocks down there that the SPD had actually put in place. And you'll see down there in the intersection, Dirty Hands. I don't know if you can get that. I mean, this is a public street right there. This is Pine, 11th and Pine, and 11th and Pine is barricaded with cars and everything else. And so what we find is that on a lot of the streets out here, you got 2 or 3 levels of barricades. So you have cars, you have metal barricades, you have the plastic barricades. Then also last night we saw something very interesting up here on Capitol Hill. There was a call for anybody who has a firearm, knows how to use it, and has their papers to get to the barricades, because another unfolding story, exactly when Kashama Sawant was speaking yesterday, something else unfolded. There's a text message that went out that said the Proud Boys were roaming around 30 deep, and that the Proud Boys were on their way to Cal Anderson Park. However, I'll be honest with you, I saw so many AK-47s, AR-15s, and everything else up here. I don't think them Proud Boys wanted that smoke. You know what I'm saying? I think they underestimated the people of Capitol Hill is strapped.
Right. And I will say this, man. I got to give a shout out to my Uncle Holiday, man. He used to say, sissy don't mean pussy. Like he was gay, and he used to say that to us, like, hey, don't play about these hands, all right? You will catch these hands.
That's why I was telling you that it's like, man, I'm going to tell everybody out there right now, if you think you're going to come up to Capitol Hill and you think it's going to be something easy over here, and you think you're just going to pull out a gun and start whatever, they say, fool me once, my fault, or your fault. Fool me twice. I'd hate to see what fool me twice looks like up here right now.
Right.
Because, they've organized a civil defense across all of the barricades here. For 2 reasons. I mean, the primary reason last night was a threat from the Proud Boys, but also, these guys feel threatened by the police.
Yeah.
And, for all the actions that kind of went on here in the protest zone over the timeline, it's quite a few people here. You got quite a few injuries. I know that the police, when the Police Officers Guild spoke yesterday or the day before, they had talked about some of the injuries sustained on their side. Which is unfortunate, but it's been quite a lot of injuries that have been sustained on the protester side as well, but they're not probably tracked, is in an organized manner, kind of like the police are. And a lot of people, and also because there's medics here in the protest zone, when somebody sustains an injury, they don't necessarily go to the hospital. They're stabilized by a medic here. So there's a lot of official numbers that we'll actually never probably know here for people on the protester side that were injured here by flashbangs, had an allergic reaction to pepper spray or to tear gas, might have took a rubber bullet. I mean, we've seen some as the guys say, some gnarly wounds from rubber bullets. Like, it's crazy. And like I said, our security guy who was basically protecting me 2 nights ago took 5 rubber bullets, 5 of them. You know what I'm saying? Staying out in front so we could keep this stream going. And I was telling people this isn't. It hasn't always been a very safe environment out here.
Right. And I will say, too, I mean, the other day you were talking about learning a lot about Stonewall. And I just want to say that it's not as if, the LGBTQ community is not used to fighting. They have been fighting as well. And so what we're seeing up here on Cap Hill, is a resilience of that. There is a faction of folks who really, they're used to this. They have fought a lot for their rights, for equal marriage, for equal pay, for equality in the LGBTQ community as well. And so we're seeing a lot of that resilience. That's one thing I will say is that, hey, they about that smoke and they about that life. You know what I mean? So that, and I think that you're right. When you're talking about environments like this, thank goodness for those medics who we saw walking around. Looks like they have almost all hazmat suits on. I mean, you can point them out in the crowd. But again, there's a lot of data we won't know because there's a lot of protesters who got hurt, who got injured in some kind of way. And they were just there on the scene, man. So shout out to all of them who were out here because, again, that was some real resilience for this.
Yeah,
we
caught one of Bobby Steele's friends 2 nights ago, and the shrapnel from the flashbang had just cut right inside of his eyelid. Ooh. So like a few millimeters probably would have punctured his eyeball. You know what I'm saying? So, it's definitely in the game out here. Yeah. People might hear the bang and the smoke, but I always talk about the worst thing with the flashbang is actually the shrapnel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Far more than the bang. So, now, as you can imagine, the city of Seattle doesn't take kindly to the streets being barricaded and citizens basically protecting the barricades with assault rifles. But that's the case right now. And I mean, I can tell you, I'm not an advocate either way here, but I can tell you that a lot of people here say that last night was the first night of rest that they got over here. Man, it's the people patrolling. Now, I'm not a social scientist or want to experiment on some social thing. A lot of people have been tweeting me and being like, oh, man, I think Denmark has a community like this where, there's no police and everybody does this and that. And I don't know. I'm just here to tell you what I actually see now and see what's going on. But currently, like I said, right now, what's occurring here in the protest zone, there's absolutely no police. And it's being policed by the people. And also something else very interesting. They protected the East Precinct last night. Guys with assault rifles protected the East Precinct last night against some of those people who we told you, the bad actors on the night shift, right, who've been known to come with their accelerants and everything else. They wasn't ready for that smoke either around the East Precinct.
And I think a lot of people, what you just said earlier, a lot of these people, this is their neighborhood, this is their community. So again, even if they didn't like the actions of the police, it's not as if they really want the precinct burnt down, right?
Yeah, I mean
again,
but there's
they're
buildings
not
attached to the precinct.
Exactly.
And there's all this other stuff here.
It will cause way more destruction.
Right, and so, for people who might have been watching thinking like, oh, man, you know what? They're getting ready to remove, because that's what we saw in Minneapolis at Precinct 3, is that they got out of town and the precinct went up in smoke.
Right.
What's something that's different here in Seattle is that, like I said, armed with assault rifles, residents here of Capitol Hill defended the East Precinct throughout the night against people who might actually want to do structural harm or damage to the building or set it on fire.
I think you've been pointing out a really solid point here that, there are a lot of these people just wanted peace. It wasn't a large group of folks that were out here wanting to cause destruction. You've been really reporting on that from day one, even from the very first Friday where there were small factions and splinter cells basically in the Chinatown ID on 5th and Jackson, right? And those look like really small groups of, some, young kids kind of out there, you know what I mean? We weren't sure if they were anarchists, Antifa, whatever, but it was clear that they wanted destruction. And then you have people that are, again, this is their neighborhood, this is their town. What they want is change. What they care about is the unrest, the civil unrest, and the injustices that black people have experienced in this country. And so you do see a variant of people who are out here, for a variety of reasons. And I think that points to that, though there are some that want to protect and some that want to destroy.
So now I know that you're on the political side of things. I mean, you just are. And you know what I'm saying? Now let's talk about the political how this moves forward. I've been saying it's the old saying: "To the victor goes the spoils."
Yeah.
You know, Kashama Sawant happened to be sitting down there. As far as elected already people who are known, there's quite a few other people who generally people in Seattle and King County and the state might not know. But we saw King County Council member Kashama Sawant. The day before, she got maced and everything else, and one day later, she swooped back around to claim a victory there. You know, what does this look like? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, is Sawant now going to be the flag bearer, or is the Sawant now, and she represents things within the black community and different factions, or is it like, you know, is it going to be a race for that seat at the table?
I think that that's a good question, and I think that, you know, there's a lot of community members and community organizations who have been able to speak with Shama Sawant and really give them, you know, her demands. I mean, we had a great call with her last week. There was a lot of community members on that call, a lot of community leaders who were really talking about a lot of the demands that are listed in the King County Equity Now Coalition. She very much is familiar with all of those demands. She's been a part of a lot of these community concerns, and so she does understand the fabric of it, especially for the Central District, which is her district. And I think that, you know, for me, working with Africatown Community Land Trust, you know, we're doing a lot of preservation for Black Americans and people from the African diaspora in the Central District, but really that's to create a model that can be used in every community. And we get calls from all over the world, people wondering how we're doing our own development, how we're building our communities. And I think that there are some great tips and tools that we can share with those communities, and also, you know, creating a structure and, again, that model that can be replicated. And I think that Shama really does represent a lot of those demands. Again, you know, we having that access to an elected official means that community members feel that they can reach out to her to say, look, you know, here is, you know, in addition to our demands, here is, now that they won't, if they gave us that, now we're going to push for this. So having that open dialogue, I think, also with the person who is representing the community demands is going to be really important as things move forward.
I need to read it, and so I don't want to quote this organization. I don't want to name this organization right here. I think that when we go live again at 6:00 for Kashama Sawant's community meeting, I'll do the research. But there is a black organization that's fairly well known, and they came out with a statement basically telling all the elected officials, city council people, and everybody else to stand down, because the only people that could we want you to go this way. If you you're in this building.
Sorry.
We're gonna finish this here first. There you go. Is that they were saying that all city council people should they shouldn't be involved in the conversation. And actually that night that council member Zahalai and I think you had Herbold and Muscata and Dan Strauss. Strauss a nice guy. He called me on my birthday, man.
That's nice.
You know what I'm saying? He called Dan Strauss, called and wished me a happy birthday. The feedback from this black organization, and I want to be able to get it right because, you know, these are very serious topics. So I'm going to read up on it at 6:00. We'll talk about it. They said that no elected official, city council, or anybody should actually be negotiating on behalf of the black community's needs, but them.
Well, I think that it's important when you talk about leaders who have been doing this work versus those who are using this as an opportunity to jump in or maybe get some list of demands on. I think there might be a variance there. You know what I mean? I shout out to all those who really think that they have a voice here. I definitely don't represent all of the black community, never claim to.
You don't represent the blacks.
So, you know, I do represent myself, and I'm a
blacks.
black person who was born and raised in the CD, so I care about the issues, you know, that really, you know, Shama has in her district, just because it's connected to the Central District. But again, it would be great to hear what they have to say at 6:00. I personally think that it's great to have a bridge between the leaders who are our elected officials as well as the community organizations and the community leaders, because that's really how you have the best coalition. So I'm hoping for the best here.
It's been quite a few people been hitting me up and saying, like, if and that's old saying, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. But if peace holds out here, and if, you know, these barricades come down, I don't see them coming down today, I don't think that's the community sentiment and things. And they want so the thing is here's what people need to understand up here on Cap Hill. These guys are still ready to stay here, be entrenched, have no police precinct, patrol the streets themselves and everything else until some sort of tangible demands are met. So it's not over.
Right.
It's just not how it was.
Right.
It isn't like people went home. Like I said, now it's like sometimes you feel like it's even crazier because now it's like, a bunch of guys, AKs, AR-15s, handguns, everything else. But everybody's chill. You know what I'm saying? But it's not over. And so these guys are entrenched here until things like, community demands are met and everything else.
Yeah, I think that's why having, people get informed and really having stations down here to make sure that people do understand what are the demands, what should they be saying. The conversations that I've been having with a lot of protesters have been so positive in terms of they're excited when they see some kind of demands from the community, when they actually are able to read them, when they can go online and digest them, when they can research the organizations that were a part of bringing those demands to the forefront. I think that helps people to have some solidarity a little bit more around these issues, and also to understand who are these players, who actually is asking for these demands.
Yeah,
so that's I've had some great discussions with folks, and I love that resilience that people are showing.
You don't represent all the black, remember the blacks would like to trade. So you know what I'm saying?
No, you definitely don't. None of us can
don't
represent
all the
None
blacks.
of us can represent all. But I think that there are that's why coalitions are important, because there are certain organizations or leaders who represent certain communities, are very tied to their communities. And I think bringing those people to the forefront is really important. You know what I'm saying? I think, I was saying this to our president and CEO, KY King Garrett, today. I'm like, man, if you could get down there to address the stream, do it. But I know that we're working on solutions on the back end. At the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff happening on the ground. So that's what makes me happy.
I would say this is that, so there's a difference between policy and politics. So much of policy happens, I wouldn't say anonymously in a bad way, by people who write policy. People aren't really known and this and that, and there's just policy wonks and everything else. And policy a lot of times can proceed without a spotlight or without awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Politics, my friend, cannot.
Right.
And what I'm saying is what people are wanting is they're wanting a political solution on the front end that leads to sustainable policy on the back end. Mm-hmm. And the reason I bring that up is policy is all about optics. Politics is all about optics. Politics is all about being seen. Politics is about doing interviews, and politics is about all those things. So, I don't want to judge anybody as to their approach. This is just me speaking freely that these guys have been crying out for someone to come and be seen.
Yeah.
And
that
be
makes
heard.
sense. Yeah.
This is what the protesters have been asking for, somebody to come let us know, you know what I'm saying, of what's going on. Yeah. So me personally, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do their thing, but I think that's great that people are working behind the scenes and they're developing policy and everything else. But before this is done and over, it's going to have to cross a political road.
Yeah.
And political road means that, you know what I'm saying, people are going to be like, well, where you been at? I didn't see you. Man, I did a Google search. You ain't done an interview and so.
Well,
are you really relevant?
If anybody is a leader, that's the beautiful thing of what you just said. Search them. You will actually find out who they are. That is beautiful, because when people have been doing this work on the ground, the truth of the matter is that you can actually find out what work they've been doing on the ground. You can actually research what organization they represent or what organization they work with or work for or lead, and that way you can learn more. And I think that when you asked the protesters yesterday to educate themselves, spot on. Let's get educated together.
And like I said, and they responded well to that, and and everything else. And like I said, what's going to be interesting here is it's a power grab. I've been saying that, for 2 weeks now, that this is going to end up with the power grab, and also that the Western Barricade was the heart center of creating pressure on the city and, on the county, maybe even on the governor for whatever change is going to take place. And now we can see that, like I said, for almost 2 weeks, these guys sustain the movement, and they were ready to keep going. You heard the chants out every day, every day. It's the city that conceded the streets, not the protesters that went home.
Right.
So, I mean, people need to remember, the city conceded the streets. The protesters didn't go home. These people are still out here, and, I mean, they want to see something happen here. It's going to be very interesting how things play out. Like I said, we're covering Kashama Sawant's her thing here later on, her community meeting later on tonight. And we're gonna go ahead and stream that out to everybody.
Great.
6:00 on Converge. I'll put up the placeholder here in a little bit so you guys can invite people and everything else. Another thing I want to say is, man, I want to thank everybody who's been donating to help us, continue to do what we're doing here. Again, you know what I'm saying? If you so feel it or whatever, our security costs have now gone through the roof because now, you know what I'm saying? With the current situation right now, especially after the developments last night, our security costs have almost, tripled over here. So, you know what I'm saying? If you so feel it, if you can make a donation, we'd appreciate it. And like I said, our security doesn't just go for us at Converge. We have all the streamers. So you know what I'm saying? So whatever we do, we bring in all the streamers with us. We just have a platform here to be able to talk to people, you know what I'm saying, about what's going on. So if you so feel it, that would be great. We'll be back out here tonight. At 6:00, I think we'll do a pre-show.
There we go.
It's the pre-show. It's whatever. So maybe 5:45. Kashama Sawant's supposed to start at 6:00. Also, man, if you're a community leader and you got an agenda, you got a platform, I'm letting you know, like I've been letting you know for the last 2 weeks, that man, we're here. You know what I'm saying? That we're right here. If you got a platform to come out. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be able to tell people what's going on and everything else.
We got to. Because there's plenty of platforms out there, plenty of people. Come on, y'all. And I'm going to be out here. But if I got to get on the stream, I'll get on the stream. Because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna have people saying there ain't no leadership out here because we know there's leaders. We know there's leaders. Let's make sure.
We already know.
Yeah.
And for me, and like I said, you see with my blog post, if you go to whereweconverge.com and click on the blog, I wrote a post there about organizations and agendas. So if you have an agenda and you want us to post it there on our website, you go ahead and either email that to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't have a favorite. You know what I'm saying?
You don't got no favorites?
I'm not endorsing nobody.
He used to work with us, y'all. He ain't got no favorites.
And now I don't.
Yeah, it's all good. You got to be you.
And that's what I'm saying is like, I'll keep it real with everybody. That it's like.
Please, KingCountyEquityNow.com.
And that's what I'm saying. You still got your space to move and groove. But I'm not endorsing anybody. You know what I'm saying?
All I know
because I'm leaving the floor open. I'm not hating on anybody either.
I think you have to do that.
But that's also why we work well on this show. Is like, you know what I'm saying? You're on the political side. Remember when the show didn't used to be about all this? We used to have so much fun.
I remember all it was us as a fam, y'all.
We used to have so much fun.
We had the headlines.
But it's important because of how me reporting on things. You see what I'm saying? Now we're reporting on the story where we're delivering the news as opposed to analyzing news.
Yeah,
which we used to do. We used to do before, and now I'm out here reporting on news, and that's what I'm saying is it's like, man, I'm indifferent. I just want to see the people win. You know what I'm saying?
But as a black man in the CD, you do have maybe your own opinion on what things need to be done in terms of what you want.
I definitely have my own opinions. Yeah. This just isn't the platform for it.
Right, and that makes sense.
That's all that is. Hey, look, we're going to get out of here. I think we're going to do a little pre-show before Kashama Sawant's public meeting. Like I said, if you're an organization, if you want to come in here on the morning update, we're here every Monday through Friday, 11 to 12, sometimes a little after 12 o'clock like today. If you're having an event or something like that, man, let us know. We like to cover things that have, meaningful content to the community. Any last words before we get out of here today?
No, I just want to say shout out to all of you who have been researching these issues. Shout out to all the protesters who did like educate themselves and come out to the Black events that were happening over the weekend, 23rd and Jackson on Friday, and then all down Rainier on Sunday. Shout out to all of you who are learning and educating yourselves, because I think that now's the time. I think that understanding these platforms and understanding the demands of the community is really something that you can take on and be out here with those points and talk to those points so that you can actually see some real change. That's what we want in the community. We want to move this momentum into something that's going to create some sustainable change. So thank you, all of you who are doing that work, who are supporting the people on the ground doing this work, who are supporting the organizations, supporting independent media like Converge. It's important. Yeah. So that's what we need. I just want to shout out to all the people who are supporting, because that's the beautiful thing that's coming out of this for all of us. So thank you all.
That's what's up. So Triana will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Catch me at 5:45-ish for the Kashama Sawant community meeting pre-show and analysis before going into her community meeting at 6 o'clock. Once again, man, I want to say I appreciate all you guys out there. I mean, especially you guys have been out there with us for a while. You know, it's really been a roller coaster, up and down, and you guys have been there the whole way. I thank you for your support, all these emails, these tweets, this positive energy, and I'm just a bit overwhelmed right now. I don't have a lot of hours in the day, but I promise you I'm going to get back to everybody, and that's just kind of who I am as a person. So we're already standing.
Yeah, we are.
So no need to take a stand, but we're already standing here today. I'll catch you again at 5:45. We'll both be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. You've been watching the Morning Update Show. Let's lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day.